Čau! Danes ponovno gledamo malo v zgodovino, pol preteklo. Ko so se letos odvijali dnevi etnografskega filma v Slovenski kinoteki, je Ljubljano obiskala tudi avtorica filma Graditev prostorov, ki se je v filmu spraševala, kakšen je občutek pri raziskovanju, kako kraj, kjer znanje nastaja, oblikuje samo znanje in katero znanje pravzaprav ostaja prezrto, ker ga ne moremo ubesediti. Predvsem je to pomenilo, da je na domači fakulteti govorila veliko s 4 različnimi družboslovci, ki se v akademskem krogu preizkušajo v ustvarjanju znanja. Zato je takole zapisala, citiram: "V tem smislu film raziskuje senzorične prostore raziskovanja. Gre za posredovanje izkušnje, raziskovanje, bodisi umetniško ali akademsko, je vselej iskanje, čustveno uravnovešanje, materialno delo. Film uresničuje to, kar prikazuje. Je umetniško raziskovanje sveta, ki ga vsi poznajo, a se še nikomur ni zdelo vredno, da bi se mu posvetil. Vsega znanja ni mogoče najti v knjigah, marsičesa se je treba naučiti z izkušnjami in odkriti s snemanjem." Konec citata. Elaine Goldberg je bilo zanimivo prisluhniti že zato, ker v resnici ne izhaja iz vod antropološkega etnografskega raziskovanja s pomočjo filma ali nasplošno iz vod filmske umetnosti.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not actually an anthropologist, so maybe as a backstory, so I'm coming from the field of science and technology studies, so my interest is epistemology, so how our knowledge is created. And there's this focus in science and technology studies on natural sciences and on laboratory studies and looking at scientists in a lab and studying what they do as a practice. So it's all about this theory of science and research as a social practice. But I wanted to shift that focus, or I was always questioning in my master program, like, but how are actually social scientists creating knowledge? Like, what about how I actually, am I creating knowledge? What is that I'm creating, and how do I do it? So I think that was my interest back in the days. And then I'm coming from the field of film, like that's a bit my background. Then I had a fantastic course about ethnographic filmmaking, so I decided that I actually want to do my empirical part of my thesis as a film, and that was the result of it.
Sliši se, da gre za precej vizualno nezanimivo temo. Na kakšen način se je torej lotila? Poleg tega, da je opaziti v njenem filmu precejšnjo mero humorja in sproščenosti.
Maybe also related to your first question of like that it's actually a very uninteresting topic in the first place. Yeah, I think like because I try to reach very different people working in social sciences, so it's like that now it's just like STS and anthropology, I think also has a reason, because these people were more open to like my approach and to just try it out with me, what will happen. But for example, Claudio also said in the beginning, like, that's going to be the most boring film ever made. And I try to like just calm them down, because that's my problems. I have to see how I do it. And I think that's the main interest of mine in research in general, to like look at very mundane things and try to see what could be or what is interesting about them. And I found like this challenge of using, like, to take this sensory ethnography approach very seriously, and also like having a theoretical lens of like a post-human perspective and like a new materialist perspective of like how are like actually also all actors in the room, like the seats we are sitting on, this little stage here, like our microphones shaping what we do and shape like the knowledge we create in our practices. So that I wanted to somehow emphasize and try it out visually with like camera and sound work, to put the focus on these like very, very small things. And I got like relatively positive, like I got positive feedback from it. So, and I think also like being invited here is positive feedback. Yeah, so I think people were then actually like surprised by how much of the senses they use during work, because I think as researchers we always think we're like sitting alone in front of the laptop and there's nothing interesting happening, but I think there's actually a lot of interesting stuff happening.
Kako pa je na podlagi cele fakultete raziskovalcev izbrala tiste prave, ki bi predstavili zaokroženo zgodbo današnjega stanja raziskovanja, predvsem družboslovnega, akademskega raziskovanja?
I think like probably everyone in the room is coming from like Sarah Pink and reading her. But I think this approach was was part of my master thesis very early on. Because I think I'm really a theory person, so I love feminism, materialism. I'm like really in this literature, so I wanted to find a perspective or a research approach that is sensible to like non-human actors and to the way realities are built through like human and non-human actors, through their interactions, through their intra-actions, if you go like with this Barat philosophy. So, and finding, like, for me, visual ethnography was really, and is still until today, and still doing films, still with this theoretical approach, like, and something that is extremely fruitful in combination, because I think making films is exactly about that you bring together so many different actors, human, technological ones, like sound, image, the editing process, and in the end you try to build a reality that's somehow telling or that is making sense to people. So I think this combination somehow, to answer your question.
Yes, and the first one was how did you choose the protagonist? Part.
Yeah, that's what I'm forgetting. I really try to approach different researchers from different fields, also like political sciences, because I wanted to have like the diversity in there. But it was really hard because like a lot of them were saying like, but I'm not doing interesting stuff there. Like it's not worth filming. And then I also didn't hear back. So it was difficult, and also I understand that it's a very intimate thing. So to like let someone be like sitting next to you for days just watching you work, I'm really thankful for the trust that they put into me, because I think it's actually which is also telling, a very intimate practice to be watched while you work. So then in the end I had to make use of my network. So Ariadne, I was working with her in the same office, so I somehow fostered it. No. But I think they were all like agreeing and happy with being part of it. But of course, like there's more an interest in participating at something like that if you are yourself like doing ethnographic research, because then you know what position I am in and I may be interested in the approach and can also give something back to you always actually needing research participants. So for the first time you can be a research participant and can give back a bit of the time. So that's what Martha, like one of the protagonists, was saying to me, that she was actually thankful that she can now give something back.
Feel the role. And the anthropologist turned out to be the most talkative, I have to say.
Yeah. He's a professor, so maybe that's also coming together, like gender and being talkative and like becoming a professor, I don't know. That's speculation.
Zakaj pa se je Goldberg sploh lotila snemanja filma? Je z njim potrdila svojo raziskovalno tezo?
It really completely changed the research, and I'm also thinking in general that like the methods shape the research we do, especially when we're using something like film to do research. I think I have a hard time like formalizing what exactly it is, because like I think there's also knowledge that cannot be formalized, so that's a bit like why I love making films, because I think there's some knowledge being transferred without really being able to put it into a sentence of what it is. But I think definitely like watching them using their technology, I don't know, there were these scenes with like the fingers on a trackpad and all of, like, it just really made an impact on me how important our sensory environment is while we are working, and how physical it actually is, because you're thinking everything that I do is happening in my brain when I'm reading, or when I'm writing, or when I'm like doing research, or going to databases. But there's a lot of physical processes going on. Like alone, something digital is something very material, because there's a laptop, there's all these materialities that we have. There's also a data center somewhere with like, there's a lot of cables. So actually it's something very material. And something that we are constantly like trying to reorganize in order to be able to concentrate, to think. So I think like this materiality actually was something that I wouldn't have like discovered or could put a focus on when I would just be sitting there and writing, or maybe that's the main thing. And also like this kind of building spaces. I think that's a bit the motto of it, that I wouldn't have found out only by writing, is that we're actually building something surrounding us that make it possible to stay in academia and working.
Ker pa je ustvarjalcev, ki so se na podoben način lotili snemanja filmov, malo morje, Jih lahko nekaj pogledamo. Goldberg se je filma sicer lotila znanstveno, večina teh, ki jih bomo še videli, pa bolj poljudno, bolj novinarsko, čeprav podkrepljeno z vsemi dokazi in s podano ter potrjeno ali pač zavrnjeno tezo. Poleg tega pa gre tudi pri njih za družbeno-kritične tematike. Eden takšnih je denimo Inside Job iz leta 2010, v katerem se je Charles Ferguson lotil raziskovanja ekonomske krize, ki je svet doletela 2 leti predtem. Sam je sicer dejal, da se je vse skupaj zgodilo zgolj na podlagi sistemske korupcije Združenih držav Amerike strani finančne industrije in posledic te sistemske korupcije. Konec citata. Vse skupaj naj bi se prepletalo z nasprotji konfliktov akademskih raziskovalcev, kar je povzročilo, da Društvo ameriških ekonomistov določenih stvari sploh ni raziskovalo oziroma je svoje standarde glede raziskovanja tega precej znižalo. Film Inside Job tako v 5 delih razišče spremembe v politikah, okolju in praksah bank, ki so pripeljale do omenjene krize.
Share prices continued to tumble.
Lehman Brothers was forced to declare itself bankrupt.
The largest single point drop.
兄弟已经进入了破产清算程序。
The regulators, they had the power to do every case that I made when I was state attorney general. They just didn't want to.
We are watching this tsunami coming.
They were having massive private gains at public loss. A financial engineer built dreams. When those dreams turn out to be nightmares, other people pay for it.
Bear Stearns, Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, they knew what was happening.
What do you think about selling securities which your own people think are crap? Does that bother you?
As a hypothetical?
No, this is real.
What do you think of Wall Street incomes these days?
Excessive.
By 1986, he was making millions of dollars and thought it was because he was smart.
Chuck Prince famously said, "We have to dance until the music stops." Actually, the music had stopped already when he said that.
At some point, I used the word Armageddon.
These people are risk takers, they're impulsive. I see a lot of cocaine use, prostitution.
So do these guys know that they were doing something dangerous?
I think they did.
I don't hear confessions.
What can we believe in? There's nothing we can trust anymore.
We had a whole group of people looking at this for whatever reason.
You can't be serious. If you would have looked, you would have found things.
It's a Wall Street government.
Why do you think there isn't a more systematic investigation being undertaken?
Because then you'll find the culprits.
I don't believe I have to discuss that with you.
You come to us today telling us we're sorry, we won't do it again. Trust us. Well, I have some people in my constituency that actually robbed some of your banks. And they say the same thing.
Drugi film, ki se mu bomo na kratko posvetili in je svojo raziskavo prav tako razburil javnost, je bil leta 2012 prvič predvajan dokumentarec The Act of Killing v režiji Joshua Oppenheimerja, ki ga je ustvaril skupaj s Christine Sin in osebo iz Indonezije, ki je želela do danes ostati anonimna. Film namreč raziskuje masovne poboje, ki so se tam zgodili med letoma 1965 in 1966, v katerih naj bi predvidoma komunisti in posamezniki, ki so se zoperstavljali režimu novega reda, utrpeli mučenje in bili ubiti. Številni ubijalci so kasneje postali gangsterji in še vedno vladajo državi, za namene filma pa so bili pripravljeni svoje vojne zločine ponoviti oziroma celo odigrati pred kamero.
Bagus, cuman jangan lama kali nangis ya.
Born free as life, son.
Ito, definisi kejahatan perang. Itu buatan orang yang menang. Saya pemenang.
Tolong, Bapak.
Yang saya harapkan tadi tidak sampai begitu kali.
Nggak bisa diulangi. Beratap.
Banyak ya, manusia yang berasa begitu ya. Apa dosa sama saya?
V današnjem času pa bi se bilo smiselno spomniti še na dokumentarni film Šoa iz leta 1985, ki ga je ustvaril Klaud Lanzmann in v katerem lahko v 9 urah skozi 11 let sledimo režiserjevim intervjujem s preživelimi, pričami in storilci holokausta za časa II. Svetovne vojne. Film je takoj osvojil kritike v New Yorku, kjer je prejel nagrado za najboljši nefikcijski film in BAFTO za najboljši dokumentarec. Filozofinja Simone de Beauvoir ga je počastila z besedami, da gre za pravo mojstrovino. Na Poljskem pa ni bil tako dobro sprejet, saj naj bi ga tamkajšnje oblasti razumele, kot da prikazuje Poljake kot sodelavce pri genocidu.
Tego domku dziwnie w słońcu lśnią, jakbyś je oczy przechodzili łzą. Da pa se ne bomo potopili pregloboko v zgodovino, se vrnimo še malo nazaj k sodobnosti in pa tudi nazaj k Ameriki. Gre namreč še za eno, še vedno popularno temo, sploh sedaj, ko zapori v Ameriki služijo na račun Trumpovih ukrepov v boju proti priseljevanju. 13. oziroma 13. je ameriški dokumentarni film Ave DuVernay, ki raziskuje industrijske komplekse ameriških zaporov, ki so namreč zasnovani kot tovarne z najcenejšo delovno silo, zato pa nekateri oblastniki tudi veselo skrbijo, da so zapori čim bolj natrpani. DuVernay je zato raziskovala, kakšen vpliv imajo na prisotnost v zaporu rase, sodni sistem, pravičnost in zakaj prihaja do množičnega zapiranja ljudi. Naslov se seveda nanaša na 13. amandma Ustave ZDA, ki so jo napisali leta 1865 in govori o odpravi suženjstva, razen če gre za kazen za obsojene kriminalce. Avtorica skozi film torej potrjuje, da prav ta v ustavi zapisana izjema ostaja glavni razlog, da se praksa prisilnega suženjstva ohranja v obliki kazenskega dela.
1 out of 4 human beings with their hands on bars, shackled, in the world are locked up here in the land of the free.
Khalif Browder was walking home from a party when he was stopped by police.
Then they said, we're going to take you to the precinct, and most likely we're going to let you go home, and then I never went home.
The 13th Amendment to the Constitution makes it unconstitutional for someone to be held as a slave. There are exceptions, including criminals.
The loophole was immediately exploited. What you got after that was a rapid transition to a mythology of black criminality.
Some people got the real problem. Animals, beasts that needed to be controlled. You better believe it. I'm only human.
It became virtually impossible for a politician to run and appear soft on crime.
The kinds of kids that are called super predators.
Millions of dollars will be allocated for prison and jail facilities.
3 strikes and you are out. It was an enormous burden on the black community, but it also violated a sense of core fairness.
Some people got the real problem.
The states were required to keep these prisons filled, even if nobody was committing a crime.
It's so difficult to talk about mass incarceration because it has become heavily monetized.
The focus is on taking people from prison, putting them in community corrections, parole and probation.
How much progress is it really if now there's a private company making money off the GPS monitor?
We now have more African Americans under criminal supervision than all the slaves back in the 1850s.
We are the products of the history that our ancestors chose. Products of that set of choices that we have to understand in order to escape from it.
We should go looking somewhere high. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me.
Če pa se odpravimo pogledati, kakšni so problemi in težave resnične ameriške tovarne, pa si lahko ogledate ameriški dokumentarni film s prav tem imenom iz leta 2019. Steven Bognar in Julia Reichert sta se namreč odpravila v kitajsko tovarno Fuyao oziroma njeno podružnico, ki so jo odprli v Morainu, mestu blizu Daytone v Ohaju. Tovarna je zapolnila prostore nekdanje tovarne General Motors. Leta 2019 je festivalsko premiero doživel na Sundanceu, na 92 Oskarjih pa je ta film prejel nagrado za najboljši dokumentarni film. Sicer pa gre tudi za prvi film, ki ga je kupila produkcijska hiša Baracka in Michelle Obama, Higher Ground Productions. Na kratko gre za prikaz optimizma 2000 ameriških delavcev, ki so ponovno dobili zaposlitev, a se nazadnje težko spopadajo z visokotehnološko kitajsko produkcijo. Dokumentarec so snemali tako v Ohaju kot v eni od kitajskih tovarn podjetja. Po svoje bi ga lahko razumeli kot nadaljevanje njunega kratkega dokumentarnega filma The Last Truck, Closing of a GM Plant, kar bi bilo v prevodu Zadnji tovornjak, zapiranje tovarne General Motors. No, v filmu Ameriška tovarna so se lotili pristopa snemanja opazovanja brez vpletanja, torej na način, kot bi vse skupaj opazovala muha na zidu, brez zunanjega dialoga, s poudarkom na zvokih tovarne in na dialogih med delavci. Vse skupaj pa povezuje naracija, ki so jo posneli tako, da so samo audio, torej samo zvok posneli kar pri delavcih doma, zato izpade, kot da gre ves čas za nekakšen notranji monolog zaposlenih.
We stand here today with a plant that's closing, but I'm extremely proud of the people that work in this plant here.
For a year and a half, I didn't have anything.
We lost our home, we lost a vehicle.
I have struggled to get back to middle class again.
This is a historic project that is going to help grow this community, give people jobs, and give a future to your kids and my kids.
Where you sit today used to be a General Motors plant, and now there are over 1,000 employees working here.
Is this a union shop?
It is our desire to not be.
他炸玻璃他不在，他什么缺陷什么缺陷？我们的口号：地水集中，土地社会。We hope someday to get this good. 他动作不要慢，一直教。
美国不能效率低，产出低，不能管了。
There have been 11 complaints filed. Some workers claim unsafe working conditions and unfair treatment.
Doing the same thing over and over again, that wears on your body and your soul.
压力是很大，确实是说白了话，任何人在这个地方。
They told me that they had to be here 2 years, away from their family, no extra pay. I've ate at their house, they've ate at my home. We've just bonded. I'm a riser.
很佩服美国人还能上2班倒，不用像我们想象那样子去为了生活失去很多东西。
那个慢会比工会破坏更厉害。
Now the whole world is watching.
Nothing in America has changed in terms of working people working hard. What changed in America was rich people deciding they wanted to rewrite the rules to take advantage of people.
You never give up on the American dream. To me, that would be un-American.
Za konec pa se spomnimo še filma Družbena dilema oziroma Social Dilemma, dokudrame Jeffa Orlovskega, Davisa Kumbe in Vicky Curtis, ki raziskuje negativne družbene učinke družbenih medijev skozi posledice, ki jih na svoji koži občutijo v 5-članski družini. Film je bil premierno predvajan januarja 2020 na festivalu Sundance, na Netflix pa je potem prišel septembra istega leta, torej že med pandemijo koronavirusa. Kritiki so ga takrat častili zaradi sporočila, ki ga nosi, in zaradi intervjujev s strokovnjaki z področja informacijskih tehnologij, kritizirali pa so pripoved in pomanjkanje nians glede reševanja tehnoloških težav. V prvi vrsti torej razlaga psihološke temelje tehnik manipulacije, ki jih družbeni mediji in tehnološka podjetja uporabljajo, da bi zasvojili svoje uporabnike. Ves čas namreč nadzorujejo, opazujejo in sledijo človeškim aktivnostim na spletu ter jih merijo. Podatke pa analizirajo modeli umetne inteligence, ki predvidevajo njihove naslednje akcije oziroma naše. Tristan Harris, nekdanji Googlov oblikovalec etičnih standardov in soustanovitelj Centra za humano tehnologijo, denimo v filmu razloži, da imajo tehnološka podjetja predvsem 3 cilje. Prvi cilj je angažiranost, s katero želijo povečati uporabo in si zagotoviti, da uporabniki nadaljujejo z drsenjem po zaslonu. Drugi cilj je rast, s katerim si želijo zagotoviti, da se uporabniki čim prej vrnejo, po možnosti z novimi prijatelji, ki so jih tja povabili. Tretji cilj pa je oglaševanje, ki pride na vrsto, če sta zgornja 2 cilja osvojena. Na kratko misel zaključi z besedami: če za produkt ničesar ne plačujete, potem to pomeni, da ste produkt vi sami. V filmu pa se ukvarjajo še s skrbjo za duševno zdravje, nevarnostmi lažnih novic in podobnim.
When you go to Google and type in climate change is, you're going to see different results depending on where you live and the particular things that Google knows about your interests.
That's not by accident, that's a design technique. What I want people to know is that everything they're doing online is being watched, is being tracked. Every single action you take is carefully monitored and recorded.
A lot of people think Google's just a search box and Facebook's just a place to see what my friends are doing. What they don't realize is there's entire teams of engineers whose job is to use your psychology against you.
I was the co-inventor of the Facebook like button.
I was the president of Pinterest,
Google, Twitter, Instagram.
There were meaningful changes happening around the world because of these platforms. I think we were naive about the flip side of that coin.
We get rewarded by hearts, likes, thumbs up, and we conflate that with value and we conflate it with truth.
A whole generation is more anxious, more depressed.
I always felt like fundamentally it was a force for good. I don't know if I feel that way anymore.
Facebook discovered that they were able to affect real-world behavior and emotions without ever triggering the user's awareness. They are completely clueless.
Fake news spreads 6 times faster than true news. We're being bombarded with rumors.
If everyone's entitled to their own facts, there's really no need for people to come together. In fact, there's really no need for people to interact.
We have less control over who we are and what we really believe.
If you want to control the population of your country, there has never been a tool as effective as Facebook.
We built these things and we have a responsibility to change it.
The intention could be, how do we make the world better? If technology creates mass chaos, loneliness, more polarization, more election hacking, more inability to focus on the real issues, we're toast.
This is checkmate on humanity.
Toliko za danes, ker kdo pa pravi, da moramo dati poleti možgane na odklop. Ne nazadnje letos ni spet tako vroče, da bi morali pošteno in ves čas počivati. Ampak prihodnji teden se bomo vseeno raje lotili kakšne bolj sproščene tematike in sicer zgodovine romantične komedije. Čau.